What is up, everybody? My name is Whooped. I have an awesome video for you today. It's Doxun versus Alpha Titan in a best of 3 series. The winner makes it to the grand finals, where they'll be taking on Arcturus to see who will be crowned the first ever champion of the Mechabellum Mini Masters Invitational. The loser of the set sadly gets eliminated. As a side quest, I've been trying to fit these 10 words into my commentary. I only have one more to go, so grab some coffee, grab a snack, and let's get into it. The winner of this match will move on to the finals to play Arcturus. This is a best of 3 between Alpha Titan and Doxun. Alpha Titan is on the bottom. He is training specialist with a sledgehammer and marksman opener. He opts for crawlers. Doxun is Farseer specialist with a steel ball and hound opener, and he also opts for crawlers. Alpha Titan going ahead and giving his marksman a level 2. And the reason he did that is just, the sooner he uses intensive training, the sooner it will become available to use in the future. So he's trying to really maximize the benefit of that specialist. Doxun taking a very aggressive composition for a, typically standard player. So we'll see what he has cooking up. This is going to be a very interesting matchup. If you watched the last game, you would have seen Alpha Titan and Arcturus go head to head. It was just such a crazy series. The winner of this going against, Arcturus in the finals. I mean, I can't wait. Honestly, I wish both of these players could move on, but, only one can. We do have to eventually crown a champion. Both are deserving. All three, between the remaining players are deserving. I wish Roxas could be here, but, it's the nature of the beast. It is what it is, and he'll have opportunities in the future. And Roxas was kind of dealing with some stuff today, so couldn't be here. But this is about Alpha Titan and Doxun. Phenomenal players. Both extremely high level. Doxun known for his standard play, which is actually surprising that he came out with an aggressive comp. And Alpha Titan is also... He's kind of classified as a standard player, but I'd put Alpha more as like a reactive player, but not in a passive sense. He's more like just a very strong reactive player. He'll build a composition that, goes perfectly into yours, and he'll just outscale you with it. I think Alpha Titan does best when he's defending. So this will be interesting with Doxun being a standard player. How is Alpha Titan going to react to that? Because in a standard v standard, I think Doxun actually might have the advantage. Now, if Doxun tried to, pull some shenanigans against Alpha Titan, I think that's where Alpha Titan could capitalize and take some games off Doxun. But, we'll see what's going on. These are both very smart players. Doxun likes to scale up. He's going to get his typical arc lights, marksman. And Alpha Titan, he has marksman right now, but he goes for the composition that's just going to beat the other, the other person's. He's not necessarily going to pick, the composition that's going to scale. So if it ends in, let's say, 8 rounds or less, I'm going to give it to Alpha Titan. But if it goes probably 9 or more, I'm going to give it to Doxun. So we'll see. Very excited for the series. It is a best of 3. It is 0-0. I can't believe we actually had 3 more of these games. And then we're going to have a finals. This is so awesome. I hope you guys are also enjoying it. I'm not a good caster. I'm not even trying to cast. I'm just going to comment on the game how I see it. If you want to watch, like actual casters, then I suggest you check out Amarok. Clint is the casting team, or Apucci and Fat4. Both of them are covering it right now. Phenomenal casters. Fat4 is one of the nicest people. They're going to do a much better job at the casting. I'm just kind of here, floating around doing my thing. Alright, so it looks like it's probably going to go Doxun's way. I think the sledge and steel ball opener is just a little too strong right now. And then he has the marksman behind it to take on the sledgehammers. Alpha Titan, his marksmen are going to do a lot of damage. I don't know if it's actually, you know what? Never mind. Alpha Titan's going to be able to pull it off. These sledges just did not die. And the marksmen, the level 2s especially, are just able to one-shot everything in their path. Alpha Titan with a very impressive round. Ooh, what are they going to get? Both of them have marksman, so I don't know if they're going to go Phoenix. Alpha Titan goes for the Wasp. I'm guessing Doxun wants to go with something that's going to scale the best. So he might take Sabertooth and sell. Okay, so he took Sabertooth and actually didn't sell the Saber yet. He's going to sell the Steel Balls, keep the Saber around for a little bit of tempo, and then eventually sell it. So he might be seeing what Alpha Titan went into before he decides to commit to selling the Sabertooth. And then Alpha Titan continuing to give his marksman intensive training. So you could see a scenario in which Alpha Titan actually gave his Wasp intensive training. Kind of make a sample play. He could always sell out of it in the future if he wanted to. But He's like, no, I'm going to scale up. I'm going to give my marksman levels. They're high damage. If he takes a saber, he's going to need to be able to take it out. So, you know, smart play by Alpha. I expect nothing less, honestly. And the way he builds his board too, he's just, Alpha Titan's the, you know, the type of player he's always going to have a solid chaff board. I think right now his biggest obstacle is having chaff clear. And he's kind of facing a similar issue into the last game he had, where against Arcturus had hounds. And he was just able to win the chaff clear battle pretty heavily every round, and it just kind of spiraled. You know, Doxun adding the storms, which is another very, you know, typical standard thing to do. And you might be saying, you know, sabers aren't very standard, but sabers in this particular case would count as like what I would call a mercenary unit. So you're going to take it, you're not going to invest too much into it, you're going to sell out of it. It looks like Alpha Titan's going to be able to take this round with the Wasps. So heads up play by him for taking the Wasps. So Doxun taking intensive training. You have to wonder, is Alpha going to take a second intensive training? Is he going to go shield airdrop? Shield airdrop's always good value. He takes a second intensive. Gives it to his Wasps. Okay, so I actually thought that might be what he would do last round. So instead, he gets this one to level 4. And he upgrades Elite. All right, so Alpha just immediately jump into Elite. He says, you know, forget range. I'm going to get 20 range with my 4 levels. And that is enough. So he has 100 damage, 20 range. Level 4 Wasp, let's go. And Doxun is doing his standard, you know, 1 Farseer on each side. You know, it protects against the flanks. It stabilizes the board defensively. It's good protection against things like teching into Wasp and giving them Elite. The Elite are still the favorite. Definitely, if they get a lock on, they will delete this Farseer. But Farseer absolutely can get through these Wasps, and it will level up the Farseer, which is what you do not want if you are Alpha Titan. Doxun opting to sell out of the other Stibballs. It's likely that he'll sell out of the Sabertooth next round. So he chose to get the Sabertooth to a level 4. I think he's using it as like a mercenary tank. Just going to be something that his, you know, going to force Alpha Titan to get through. Alpha Titan doesn't really have anything that can get through this tank right now except for his high level Wasps. You know, I think his marksman gets stuck on it for a while, Sabertooth will get stuck on it, and it just kind of allows Doxun to sit back with his storms and his marksman and just go to work. So Doxun is building a fantastic composition right now. I think the problem that, you know, Alpha Titan faced and what Roxas faced when he played against Doxun is this Farseer comp. The Farseer on each side is so defensively stabilizing. Doxun opting for a skip. Be interesting if Alpha Titan tries to go for advanced power. Does he want the speed? Does he want a nuke? I highly doubt he takes a nuke. So I think it's either going to be skip or speed. Doxun going into Vulcans. Now you can kind of know, okay, so you can kind of tell Doxun was going to go in Vulcans. And the reason is because he wasn't teching into Hounds and he wasn't going into Arclights. Now Doxun is an Arclight player. If he was going to go Arclights, you will know he's going Arclights. Because he didn't go Arclights, you can kind of tell he's going to go Vulcans because you're going to need chaff clear, right? So Vulcan marksman composition. He's going to keep a saber around as long as it's still valuable. He doesn't need the damage. He just needs it to tank. And that's exactly what it's doing. He now has the Vulcans with range on the board. He has the Phoenix, as a Farseer behind him. This is absolutely a problem for Alpha Titan. Alpha going in the double tech, even though he has 2 Wasps. They are level 5 though on this side. So Alpha's really playing through his Wasps here. He kind of got away from his composition a little bit. He was going into like a more standard approach, and then he made a pivot of sorts to Wasps. So we'll see if it works out. Right now, I'd have to give the edge to Doxun. His board is just a little bit more stable. And I think it could scale a little bit more higher with the Vulcan, but you never know, you know. An answer to the Vulcan could be something like Worms, which is why Doxun might be keeping the Sabertooth around. Are they going to be able to lock onto the Farseer and get him? They did. Okay. So this is huge for Alpha Titan. You know, even though Doxun might have had the better board, Alpha Titan just manipulated it and got what he needed. He took out the Farseer. He took out the tower. He still has 1 Farseer to deal with. But there's only one marksman that's actually going to shoot up until this Farseer gets over here, so he's going to get a lot of value out of it. Can he take out the Sabretooth? He cannot. But that's okay, you know, he minimized some of the damage he would have taken if he didn't do that mobile beacon, so it was still a good play by Alpha Titan. Doxun's board is just really solid right now. So a back-to-back nukes offered, and advanced speed. I feel like we're seeing the same thing over again. Alpha Titan, I think, is considering improved Scorpion, because he doesn't really have, you know, a solid option offensively. Said he opts to skip, I believe. He's going to get his own Vulcan, and he's going to give it intensive training. Does he get it to level 3? He doesn't have the money to get it to level 3, but he still might give it a level, just so he can level it next round. So we will see. He could actually give it 2 levels next round. What I find interesting about Doxun's board is that he has the Farseer, but instead of opting for the levels, he actually goes for Mustangs. So he goes Mustangs with range to deal with these wasps, which is interesting for sure. Doxun selling out of the doggos. You would think you'd keep them around, especially because, like, they did 12,000 damage, right? Just those dogs alone. And they're still, you know, they're still chaff. They're chaff clear. They're chaff. I mean, yes, you have Vulcans, but they still act as, you know, chaff clear. They did 12,000 damage. They're only 100 cost. So you have to wonder, is the negative tempo worth the 100? I'm not sure it is. Doxun is absolutely a phenomenal player, but was, you know, selling at something like the Sabretooth be better where you get 500 from it? He can keep, you know, all his hounds, even if it's just for chaff. I don't know, but you typically don't see Vulcan. You typically don't see Vulcan Wasp, so this is kind of interesting. Ooh, Doxun takes a tower at a bad time for Alpha. Alpha's Vulcan locked on to Doxun's Vulcan though, and Alpha Vulcan is level 2. And it doesn't matter because the rest of Doxun's comp wraps around and takes out the Vulcan. Alpha, at risk of falling down 0-1. Here's the worms that he might play. Nope, they both opt for rhinos. Doxun getting rid of the Sabretooth, which is actually kind of interesting because rhinos and worms are available. And then that is the round that he chose to get out of the Sabretooth, which I think is kind of funny. Okay, does he, I was going to say, does he give him EMP? That is a resounding yes. Does he level him though? He doesn't feel like the 150 for the level is worth it. And I would have to agree. This, you know, he had less than 10,000 damage last round. He had 17,000 damage. You know, I don't know if putting 300 supplies into it would be worth it. Alpha knew exactly what he was going to do with his supplies. He got through them extremely fast. He added another Vulcan on the side. He did not upgrade that Vulcan to level 3. Both players shopping the delayed Rhino with armor enhancement. You know, I just got done with the coaching session where I said, you know, delayed Rhinos with armor enhancement, solid play. Typically, you see this when you are in a winning board, like what Doxun has right now. However, they pair exceptionally well with Wasps, so I can absolutely see Alpha Titan doing it, and it's kind of a tempo play. So I'd say, you know, a good job by Alpha, but you do have to expect the Farseer EMP. I mean, they are right in line, you know. You know, I just don't know if Alpha has enough to get through Doxun's board right now, because it's basically coming down. Can the Wasp... Oh, he actually does, you know, level up the Farseer. Okay. It's basically, can the Wasp get through the Farseer and the Mustangs? If they can, he'll win, and if they can't, he'll lose. It's basically what it comes down to. Except the difference also is, you know, Alpha Titan's Rhino is going to be EMP'd, whereas Doxun's Rhino is not. And is Doxun going to get Alpha Titan's tower at a terrible time? It looks like the Wasps go down. I think this is going to be game 4 Alpha Titan. I'm pretty sure Doxun's going to go up in the series 1-0. Will it be lethal? He has enough on the board. It is absolutely lethal. That is game 1 for Doxun. Well played, gentlemen. Fantastic game number 1. And we will be back with a game number 2. We are back with game number 2 in a best of 3 series. Doxun versus Alpha Titan. Doxun is on the bottom. He is Giant Specialist with Marksman and Hounds. Alpha Titan is our red player on the top. Speed Specialist. He started Sledgehammer and Hounds, and he opted for Crawlers. We'll see what Doxun wants to do against Sledgehammer and Hounds. He also opts for Crawlers. Crawlers are just kind of a standard thing to do, especially when you don't have chaff. So, and I don't really count hounds as chaff. They're about as much as chaff as Mustangs are chaff. Maybe secondary chaff, definitely not a primary. So Doxun going for a very typical standard opening. Not surprised there. Alpha Titan also going for a standard opening. Not surprised there. If you're watching this and you aren't a super high level player, I suggest having your hounds positioned very similar to what Alpha Titan is doing. So they're going to cover the flanks, right? So if hounds do not become Alpha Titan's solution for chaff clear, he can still keep the outside hounds and they will cover the flanks. And the middle one will also cover shenanigans in the back like underground threat. And the last 2 games I watched at Alpha Titan, I think chaff clear was a concern. So I really hope to see him, focus on chaff clear a little bit earlier. I think he will with the hounds and the sledges mixed. Definitely have some chaff clear. And he might have a little bit of an advantage with hounds into Mustangs. Maybe not in the first round, but as the game progresses, we can definitely see where the hounds will actually start to be a little bit better into Mustangs than Mustangs are into hounds. Now, it might come down to who clicks, range first. But I still give the advantage to Alpha's composition right now. Because Mustangs with standard are just so difficult to play. They don't really fit into your board unless you're using them as like a secondary chaff and maybe wasp protection. You might have like cheeky flank protection, secondary chaff, wasp protection, whatever it is. Stormcallers and Phoenix. Farseer, Doxun loves his Farseer. Alpha Titan taking the Farseer this time. So he's like, I'm not having that happen again. I see it how powerful it is. Absolutely taking the Farseer is going to stabilize his board on this side. Not that he has anything to stabilize, but it's just going to offer immediate power spike, right? Farseers are so good early. And when you only have like 2 of them, they're just phenomenal units to keep around. No surprise that Doxun also opts for the Farseer. Now he already has, the flank somewhat secure, so he's going to put this one a little bit on the inside of the tower, just so he can target these sledgehammers. Unless Alpha Titan was to put something, then it most likely gets pulled, but eventually Alpha is going to put chaff up here to cover his sledgehammers from getting missiled out, which means the Farseer will no longer be pulled, most likely, depending on the positioning, of course. All right, so we got Farseers on the opposite side of each other, so that's very interesting. Got crawlers in the middle. 4 Doxun going to go to work. It's not what you want to see of your sledges. But on the other side, on the right side, Doxun is losing ground to Alpha Titan. He actually is losing ground in the middle as well. His Farseer is not going to be able to clean up everything. Alpha Titan's Farseer is going to be able to take the tower. This round will go in Alpha Titan's way. And, that's not a whole heck of a lot of damage, but it's not insignificant either. The Farseers count as 300, and the sledges are going to count as 200. Like, that's a decent sized chunk of damage that was just dealt to Doxun. So even though it seemed like he didn't, win by a whole heck of a lot, it actually was pretty significant. So for Alpha Titan, you have 4 sledges. Now, between the sledges and the hounds, you can absolutely have chaff clear. I would expect something like Mech Rage to be clicked very soon, if not this round, next round. And, that's going to be Alpha Titan's chaff clearing solution. So, to pair with this, you could see something like, he didn't take the Phoenix. So you still could see a Phoenix, but you might see something like a Raiden. I think a Raiden with sledges could be very common. Abyss with sledges is common nowadays. I don't recommend Abyss, but I could see it happening. Now, Doxun is not playing around. He's going Vulcan. It is a very common response to counter sledges with Vulcan. Now, the trick, if you're Doxun, is you have to get through these first few rounds, because when you first put down a Titan, when you first put down a Giant, you just don't have a whole heck of a lot going for you. It really is easy for the other player to out-tempo you, and I think that's going to be the case this round, although the shield definitely helps Doxun's favor for that. Looks like Alpha's going to be able to take the tower, and with it, he might be able to take down the shield. He can sneak down the Farseer. The Farseer wasn't in the shield. That is fantastic for Alpha Titan. Will he be able to get the shield? He will not be able to, because Doxun actually took Alpha Titan's tower. And Doxun will take the round, or will he? This Farseer is doing some work. Oh, it looks like the Farseer might have it. And Alpha Titan taking the round again, and that is another 300 damage that is off the board. Last 2 rounds, Alpha Titan has done 800 damage, barely losing both rounds for Doxun, but 800 damage is quite a bit. That erases any sort of HP advantage he had initially going into it. Doxun places down another Vulcan. Very common thing to do. You're going to start to see Doxun go into Marksman or Phoenix, depending on what he wants. He has best partner, so I'm guessing it's going to be Marksman at some point. So Doxun is going to have to start adding Marksman to his composition, but he's also going to have to start getting some Fangs going in his composition. So he still has a couple things that he needs to place down. He doesn't have the Marksman unlocked, so it can only be Fangs right now. So he might be deciding, does he put down another Farseer? Does he put down more Crawlers? He has the Mountain Formation of Crawlers going. He only needs about 5 of them. He doesn't probably want to put down more Crawlers, so he's like, do I put down Fangs? That's what he's thinking right now. And then Alpha Titan, instead of going into Mech Rage, he goes into Field Maintenance. Okay, so this tells me right here, Abyss? Am I crazy in thinking it's Abyss? There's no way it could be something like Riding, because Riding just wouldn't chaff clear enough. Is it going to be Abyss? What do these spread out? Call me crazy, but going into Field Maintenance, not having the chaff clear, I don't know. Alpha Titan coming up with the very, very nice oil. He's making Doxun ignite it himself, to take out his own Mustangs. Fantastic play. And, it's a tempo play. It does cost 150. I mean, obviously you can't use oil for a few rounds, but you're gaining some value out of it. If you're able to take out this side, it might help you close the gap. So I think it's a solid play by Alpha Titan. Might sneak him a couple extra points, whether he wins or loses. Now the Farseer is going to sit inside the shield, which is perfect for Doxun. Oh, the shield goes down, the Farseer goes down, and it's absolutely going to be enough for Alpha Titan to win the round again. Doxun goes down. That's over 500 damage dealt. He is just chipping away at Doxun's health. Enhancement module taken by Doxun. He cannot put it on his Vulcan, but he can put it on his Farseer. So does he put it on his Farseer and sell out of it? Or does he put it on his Farseer and just level it? So he puts on his Farseer, levels it, gives it EMP. And then Alpha Titan wondering if he should take Smoke Bomb or not. Or Enhancement module. So that's probably what Alpha Titan's thinking. Or if he wants to commit to Giant. If he doesn't, he might take Efficient Light Manufacturing. But I think he's probably debating on Enhancement module or Smoke Bomb. I'm leaning towards Enhancement module. So he's like, do I want to sell out of my... He's thinking right now, do I want to sell out of my Sledgehammers? That's what he's calculated. Or does he want to throw down Smoke Bomb on this side? So, and he opts for Smoke Bomb, which I think if he didn't have Field Maintenance, he would have went with Enhancement module. But because he has Field Maintenance and this one has an item anyway, he went for Smoke Bomb, which I think Smoke Bomb's a fantastic play. If I was Doxun, I actually would shield here because I do not want my Vulcan to get hit with Smoke Bomb. That's 2 rounds. It's going to affect... Yep, there we go. There's the shield. Now, you still have to wonder, what is Alpha Titan's play? He has the Sledgehammers. What is his punch? What is his pillar of DPS? It is not the Sledgehammers. His Sledgehammers... Is it the dogs? Does he plan on going dogs? Are dogs going to be his DPS? You would think by round 5 he would have range in them, right? You want them to sit behind the Sledgehammers. Dogs have 70. Sledgehammers have 95. Dogs need range to sit behind the Sledgehammers, and that is exactly how you'd want to be lined up if, you want a dog DPS. So what is Alpha Titan doing right now? Like, you have to wonder, what is he cooking? He obviously has a plan. He's an extremely smart player, so he has something cooking up. I'm wondering, is he waiting for a drop? Is he waiting to see something specific from Doxun? What is he waiting for? Doxun's still not teching into the Vulcan, which I find actually surprising. I wonder if Doxun's not teching into the Vulcan because he feels like I'm just going to get EMP'd anyway. You would think at minimum he would get range. So I'm very surprised Doxun is not teched actually into his Vulcan. I'm not going to call it a blunder, but I am curious as to why. Okay, so this is a bigger opportunity. Alpha Titan takes the Wraith. Now, this is why I said, whoa, and Doxun drops a Sandworm. Doxun, thinking his composition looks a little stale, is going to have some Peppermint to freshen things up. And by Peppermint, I mean, what's better than a level 2 worm? Alpha Titan opting for Wraith and giving it range, and he drops another Wraith. Okay, so this is very dangerous to do if you're Alpha Titan, and the reason is because of the Farseer. However, Doxun did not get into his typical marksman composition, which I was saying earlier, you know, he's going to need to start putting some marksman down. And this is actually a reason as to why, you know. It gave Alpha Titan an opportunity to break through the cracks and place something like Wraith down. Now, Doxun doesn't have a lot of answers to go against these Wraith. The, you know, sledgehammers are tanky, they're going to sit in front of it. He just now got Scorch on his Vulcans. You know, it's, I can see Alpha Titan really breaking through this Doxun defense right now. And I think it's because Doxun just did not build out his marksman board. You know, if he's going to go Vulcan, he's going to have to get, you know, this marksman composition going. And I think he went really heavy into, you know, chaff, but not heavy enough into marksman. So you would like to see Doxun having at least 3 or 4 right now. Because then you can, you know, tech into anti-air and take care of this. Honestly, I think Alpha doesn't even go Wraith if that's the case. But it might not matter, you know, it might not matter. This level 3 Farseer is gonna, you know, do absolute work. So if he gets the tower, if Doxun takes Alpha Titan's tower, and this Farseer is gonna hit, you know, these Wraith unimpeded, he might do a lot of damage. And he does, and the shield's gonna go ahead and protect them, so Doxun's gonna get a massive round. That even things up, 3,688 to 3,644. They are 44 HP away, 6 rounds through, and they're 44 HP separated. This is a fantastic game so far. And we called it, ladies and gentlemen. We have called it. Alpha Titan has dropped the Abyss. This is so uncharacteristic for Alpha, but, you know, I think it's actually very telegraphed, though, on Alpha Titan's part, because we were able to see this coming rounds and rounds ahead. And Doxun is farther than probably anybody watching this right now. You know, maybe 1 or 2 of you are higher than Doxun, but I highly doubt it, you know. So Doxun had to have known that Abyss was coming as well. And maybe that's why he has, you know, a ton of chaff built. He goes ahead and drops more Farseer. This is why I don't like the current iteration of the Abyss Sledgehammer defense. I don't think dropping Wraith are good. I feel like it's an unnecessary bridge to get Abyss. The reason is because I realize you might need chaff clear. I think you'd be better off just getting Mech Rage. And that way, you know, whatever they put down to stop the Wraith, you know, isn't going to stop the Abyss. Because Doxun's either thinking, yes, he has an Abyss, or he just has to stop the Wraith. Either way, whatever he puts down is going to stop both, you know? The same things counter Wraith that counter the Abyss. For the most part. Not, you know, it's not going to be a 1-to-1 ratio or anything, but what I'm trying to say is, if Doxun wanted to go Marksman, he could go Marksman into an Abyss, and if Doxun wants to go Farseer, he can go Farseer into Abyss, you know? So, that's why I don't like the current iteration of Wraith first. Like, I understand you want a chaff clear, but I think having a bunch of sledgehammers and doggos would be more than enough. Give the doggos range, you know, behind it. That's chaff clear enough in my opinion. Which is why I don't like this build. A lot of good players swear by it though. You have a lot of good players that like it. And maybe they see something I don't, or maybe I see something they don't. Who knows? Everybody's gonna have their own playstyle. That being said, I love the fact that Alpha was willing to go to something like this, and his composition, his synergy is A+, right? So if you put aside my feelings for the Abyss, oh, level 3 marksman, are you kidding me right now? You just pop this, click AA, it's such a low level investment for Doxun. Oh man, that is not what you want to see. That is not at all what you want to see if you're Alpha Titan. 3 level 3 marksman, like you gotta be kidding me. And if you're Alpha Titan, it might be worth just dropping a marksman earlier on, just so you prevent a marksman drop, or at least limit it, right? Because the more you have invested into it resource-wise, the less likely it's to drop. So it is only going to drop if everything has some resources into it. So Alpha Titan doubling down, going into 3 Abyss. Now, 3 Abyss with Swarm Missiles is going to be a massive problem for Doxun. Do I still think Doxun is favored to win? Yes, I do. However, I think Doxun may have blundered by going Anti-Missile Mustang. And the reason I say this is because Anti-missile Mustang is actually not very effective against Abyss. Not when you have a lot of them. Can it, clear one or two? Yes, but when you start stacking them up like this, anti-missile Mustang is essentially useless. You're putting 200 per Mustang plus, the anti-missile technology, and it's just wasted deployments. I really don't think that's the answer. If anything, I'd like to see more Vulcan and best partner. Or I'd just like to see elite recruited marksmen or Mustangs with range. And range in AA if you're going to go that direction, I just don't think I don't think AM on Mustangs is the answer, and this is after testing it multiple times in games as well as like testing grounds. Now, the Abyss composition is still fairly new though. Doxun might not have, won against it a whole heck of a lot, and when he did, he probably had a lot of marksmen, because that's typically what he builds. So he might not have had to drop a bunch of Mustangs. But as you can see, the Mustangs didn't really do anything. Right? It's on the back of the marksman and Farseer that's actually killing them. Mustangs got smacked. So I think it's a bit of a blunder on Doxun to go the Mustangs, and I think that's a bit of an opportunity for Alpha Titan to get back into this game. Not that he's necessarily out of the game, but I think it's an opportunity for Alpha Titan to potentially win the game, because that's a lot of wasted tempo for Doxun. Now, this is just my opinion, of course, and again, I know somebody in the comments was like, hey, instead of just saying they're a better player, why don't you take over the round and, do something? And I totally agree. Like, I could take over the round and show you, but Doxun is a better player than me. Like, he is a way better player than me. So, I trust him. Absolutely. He could very well know, what works best into the Abyss. It's just from my experience, Mustangs are definitely not the answer. Mustang AM, excuse me. Mustang AM is definitely not the answer, because they typically get a lot of Abyss. He is doubling down, though, on the Mustang, so we might eat our words here. We might eat our words. Doxun very well might change our mind right here. We'll see. I would have loved to see, like, elite recruited marksman instead, or, like, range on the Farseer instead, but no. He's doubling down on these Mustangs, getting more of them, giving them range. I think range was absolutely necessary if you're going to go into Mustangs like this. But again, I still don't think that's the answer. So we'll see. Now, I'm very curious to see what Alpha Titan does. Alpha Titan coming out with underground threat defensively. Doxun going to go ahead and pull some of these missiles over here. So Alpha Titan did not add another Abyss. So we'll see if this catches up to him a little bit. Is Doxun able to stabilize? That is the question. Will these Mustangs catch up? Not adding another Abyss is interesting, because it kind of lets Alpha Titan, it kind of lets Doxun catch up a little bit in like terms of being able to counter it. But he did add levels, right? I think he added levels, so. Oh man, he is just absolutely steamrolling the side. I really, I don't think Doxun's going to be able to come back from that. I think Alpha Titan's going to win the game. Now, I could be wrong. I totally could be wrong. But I just see Alpha Titan winning this one. I just don't think Doxun's going to be able to take it. Not with how many Mustangs he has. I think having some Mustangs with like range for Wasp protection would have been good. But I think really, honestly, the Farseer should have had range. They already have Wasp protection. They're already good against things like, Wraith and Abyss. They can turn off the missiles. And just having marksman with AA for one. And just elite recruiting more marksmen. I think that is the play. I've gone against Abyss quite often, and I've lost a couple times to Abyss, and the times that I've lost is because I just didn't build any anti-air, or I went into Mustangs with AM. That's how I learned, Mustang AM just is not the answer for me. So I'm wondering what Doxun does, though. Like, you have to wonder, does he have a plan? Alpha Titan adding more Abyss, even on the side too. He's like, hey, I'm just going to give up the side. I'm going to level the tower. I'm going to give up the side. You want to see him tech it, enhance range. You borrow and pay the range tax here, so that's absolutely perfect. You get high mobility. Doxun throwing down some oil, trying to slow down these sledgehammers. Unfortunately, it's the air that's really doing the work. I think this is it for Doxun. I don't see him coming back. So I think this is just too much to handle. And I don't want to harp on Doxun at all. Again, like I said, way better player than I am. I just think all the resources that he spent to Mustang's just not the play. Not in AM. If they had anti-air, maybe it's a different story. I don't know. But definitely not AM. Not with all these missiles. But he did add more marksman, and he did get AA. So we'll see if the marksman AA can do work. I'm thinking the AA on the marksman might actually make a big deal. Is Doxun going to turn this one around? Will the damage be enough? He's turning a couple of these off. Will the damage be enough before his tower gets taken? The Abyss goes down. The second Abyss that goes down. Doxun doesn't have a lot of HP to play around with. And Alpha Titan able to take it home. What a fantastic showing by Alpha Titan. Way to bring this one back. GG's to Doxun, GG's to Alpha Titan. Great game, gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back for game number 3 between Alpha Titan and Doxun. And I realize it's probably not back for you because I had this in the same video, but it has been a couple minutes for me, so I am back. Hopefully I edited the few minutes out. Doxun is blue on the bottom with Sabertooth and Arclight. He's aerial specialist, very interesting. Alpha Titan, our red player, on the top with giant specialists, okay. With Sledgehammer and Fang Opener, so Alpha Titan already going his standard chaff positioning. And Doxun, you know, starting out with his crawlers and his Arclights. Eventually you'll see Doxun probably saw to the Sabertooth, and both of them are going to go into like their standard compositions. We'll be able to tell pretty early if Doxun plans on going Vulcan. If he techs into the Arclights at all, he most likely is not going to go Vulcan. He actually ended up in the losers bracket last week because he ended up teching into Arclights and then transitioning to Vulcan a little too late. It was just a little too much to overcome. So we'll see him clean that up for sure. I think he'll be a little bit more decisive on how he wants to chaff clear this game. Now, Doxun won game number 1. Alpha Titan won game number 2. Doxun had a bit of a lead, and Alpha Titan came back with Abyss. Doxun with a bit of a blunder going into AM Stangs. So we'll see, you know, how Doxun responds and how Alpha Titan honestly responds with the momentum from last game. He has to be running on a high right now. Oh, and Alpha Titan's marksman gets an instant lock with the Sabertooth. That's going to be huge for Alpha Titan's right side. There's not a lot of chaff going on the side either. So there's going to be nothing to take out the shaft, nothing to take out that marksman for a bit. Oh, and the marksman takes out the Arclight closest. Oh, it looks like the Arclight on Doxun's left will be able to take out the Fangs, though. So Doxun will win this round with the Sabertooth and an Arclight. That is 300 damage to Alpha Titan. 4,700 down to 4,400. Obviously, it's not anybody's game. 48 to 44. Round 2, what do we see? A unit drop. All right. So we won't see another unit drop until 5, maybe 6. Doxun going for the Phantom Ray. Alpha Titan going for the Phantom Ray. Probably a tempo and sell. You know, you're going to place them, see how the opponent responds to them, and sell out of them. Alpha Titan is much more prepared to go against Phantom Ray than Doxun is, so you might see Doxun going into... Well, I was going to say you might see Doxun going into Marksman, but looks like instead he's just going to go into Fang and rely on his Phantom Ray to kill the other Phantom Ray. So he'll probably position these really far back because he does not want them to get eliminated before they have an opportunity to take out the other Phantom Ray, and he doesn't necessarily know, you know, Alpha Titan's going Phantom Ray, but you can kind of guess. You don't have anything that can shoot up. It's free. It's also a sell. So Alpha Titan avoiding Arclights and not adding more Sledgehammers to me tells me Vulcan. So if I'm reading this as Doxun, I'm thinking Alpha Titan is going to go into Vulcan Marksman as soon as he sees this, right? So this is a sell right here eventually. This right here is telling. This right here is telling. Doesn't have Arclights. No tech. You know, didn't add Sledgehammers. Most likely not going to have tech in round 2, but, you know, just saying. You can expect Vulcan, right? And then if you're Alpha Titan, you know, he didn't add more Arclights, but that's understandable because there's arrays on the board. He's going to get his Fangs going. But what's also telling is he didn't add Marksman. So is it the standard Arclight Marksman composition from Doxun? And I don't think you can say for certain that it is. Otherwise, I really do think you would see either more Arclights or more Marksman at this point. Maybe not, though. I think it's a wait and see for Alpha Titan. You're really going to have to gather more information. For Doxun, though, I think you know exactly what Alpha's going to do. So both players should take Underground Threat unless Doxun wants haste. Yeah, both players take underground threat. Alpha Titan goes for the defensive underground threat. His flanks are pretty well covered. There isn't really anywhere Doxun actually could hit him. If Doxun wanted to, yep, there's the Vulcan. We absolutely called that one. So Doxun, again, had to know that was coming because we called it, you know, immediately. And there are the storms. Okay. So most likely Doxun did read this, which is why he's dropping the storms. He doesn't necessarily know Alpha Titan's going to do it round 3. He could do it round 4. You know, there's a unit drop on 2. You know, unlock the Melter on round 3. That way one doesn't appear on round 5. But I suppose he could just unlock the Melter on round 4 because one couldn't appear until round 5 anyway, so no harm, no foul there. Doxun also opting for the defensive crawlers. His are a little bit more asymmetrical. And he has the... Interesting. He has the missile here. Is it to take out the chaff? So I'm wondering, did Alpha Titan throw the missile that way? Yeah, I really don't know why the missile's placed there. There has to be a specific reason. A specific lock-on he was looking for, I'm thinking. Or he was thinking a corner push is going to happen if you like hit him with underground threat from the back or something. I'm not sure. I'm curious to watch that back and read a little bit more into that. So the loser of this match will go home. The loser will be eliminated from the tournament officially. The winner will move on to play Arctorius in the finals, which I will also record and upload a video on. Alpha Titan opting for Portable Shield. Doxun taking his time. He has a lot of good choices. Improve, laser, Portable Shield. What does he want to do? I can absolutely see any of those being taken, honestly. Portable Shield is so good, but so too is laser sights for Vulcan and improved. So I can see any of those. I think Portable Shield, he could throw on like a Saber and then sell out of it if he wants to get like a Giant later on. Unless he's planning on going War Factory, in which case he wouldn't do that. Doxun goes with laser sight. It's going to give a laser sight to its Phoenix. So his composition is going to be Arclight Phoenix. So we can expect to see Arclight range potentially with more Arclights being added. Okay, so there's the Phoenix. Phoenix will get range first, or the Arclights get range first. Typically, if you're going to go into Arclights, you range them around 3. Now I can see him waiting a little bit, but he didn't sell out of his Sabers to get range on Arclights. So I'm wondering, what is his Chaff Clear plan? Is he also going to go Vulcan? Doxun is leaving the door open for Vulcan, and he's establishing his 2 and the 1-2 punch. So is he deciding right now if he wants to go Arclights or Vulcan? I think he's going to have to make a decision fast, because if he wants to go Arclights, he's going to have to start getting them out earlier than later, because if Alpha Titan's throwing down 400 cost units and he's, you know, too busy throwing down 100 cost units, then Alpha Titan's obviously going to have that advantage. But I do think it was important to get out, you know, some DPS as well, so we'll see. We'll see what he does. Looks like Doxun will be able to take this round off the backs of the Stormcallers, potentially. Depends if they can clear this fast enough. They cannot. Alpha Titan will take the round by 400, which is pretty significant. You know, it came down to the wire of sorts, but 400 still, you know, it's nothing to sneeze at. Doxun immediately going for additional deployment. Alpha Titan's wondering if he should go additional deployment or Portable Shield. He can give Portable Shield to the other Vulcan, or he can go additional deployment and, you know, potentially put down more marksmen, or put down more Vulcans even, put down more chaff. It's really taking his time to think about this one. Does he want the item? Does he want the deployment? What did he do? He went additional deployment, okay. So he did take the additional deployment. It went Scorch. I can see taking Scorch first because, you know, Doxun didn't have range. I would like to see range first, personally. Just kind of my thing. A lot of players, you know, think you have to take Scorch first on the Vulcans. And then some players, you know, don't think that way. I like to kind of see what the composition has, and then I like favor range, probably like 55-45 or 60-40. I like to go range if I can in a standard v standard first. But, you know, I won't shy away from taking Scorch as well. And it's not like Doxun has a ton of range, so it makes sense that Alpha Titan would want Scorch. But if you are Doxun did indeed add another Arclight and got range. So we did call that he was just around a little late. So Doxun's actually a little bit late on his composition. Normally you'd have four arclights with range by round 3, right? The minimum you'd have 3 arclights with range round 3. Like sometimes you hold it off to 4, but he actually added a level 1 arclight on round 5, and he ranged it round 5. So Doxun's a little behind on his composition. That being said, I do think the range is hurting Alpha Titan a little bit. He's having to walk and take a lot of damage before he gets any damage off. Just getting bombarded with these storms, bombarded with, the arc shots. Arc shots won't do too much. But Alpha Titan's still able to take it. And that's actually part of the reason why I think he should have gone range first. Now, he could have a completely different viewpoint than me, and his might be extremely valid. I have no idea. But, and again, a lot of people have different viewpoints. Some of mech, can break down to facts and math, and some things are just preference, and some things can go either way. Sometimes there's multiple right answers. In this particular case, I think he waited out, and he's probably... Okay, so this, with new insight comes new perspective, and I kind of understand his thought process a little bit more. I think he wanted to get best partner out sooner rather than later. And so he opted for Scorch first because he'd rather have Scorch in best partner than range in best partner. And he made that calculation. Can't fault him for that at all. I don't know, I still kind of like, I still kind of like range here. I'm not going to lie. I still kind of like range because... I don't know, but I do like the fact that Alpha Titan has items on his Vulcan. He has Portable Shield and Amplify Core. Very awesome. He still has the Sledgehammers, which act as, pseudo chaff. They're like secondary chaff of sorts. He has the Phantom Ray, kind of, serving that same purpose. They're just acting as chaff. Protect the fortress, protect the Vulcans a little bit longer. He has the Delayed Fangs running up to protect his marksman. And that's kind of what the Vulcans are serving as. They're like clearing the chaff and acting as just like tanks so that the marksman can sit behind and shoot. And they're serving, they're doing that really well. So this is the round ends up going Doxun's way. Doxun's composition's coming together. I think, up to round 5, Doxun really didn't have a lot of chaff clear. I think up to round 5, Doxun didn't have a lot of range. And he didn't have, the additional arc light. But on round 6, he had, more of a complete composition, and he added wasps, which was a lot for his 7 marksmen to deal with. Doxun goes Rhino, so we see... Doxun sold his Rhino. Alpha Titan keeps his Rhino. He does not give it shield, which I definitely understand because it's just going to be walking into the Phoenix. So he's using the Rhinos as like delayed chaff. Just a delayed tank. I think that is a really good move by Alpha Titan. The only hesitation I have about that is they're level 3, so they're going to give a lot of XP to Doxun's Phoenix, which in turn will just, melt these Vulcans pretty fast. Alpha Titan prioritizing range now, gets range on his Vulcan, so he's triple tech Vulcans, but only 3 of them. So this is a bit concerning that you only have 3 and they're triple teched. 2 of them do have items. I'm not saying you can never do it. I'm just saying, it's very expensive. Doxun continuing to add more Phoenix despite Alpha Titan being able to hit the AA button on his marksman. I think once Alpha Titan hits AA on his marksman, it's going to be a completely different ball game. Now, he probably didn't have the supplies to do it this round because he did get some, range on the Vulcan as the 3rd tech, which would have cost, what? 700? But... he'll probably be able to do it next round. And does he get range on the Fangs? Maybe not. I think he just adds more Fangs. He does have the additional deployment. You could see something like shielded Fangs coming out eventually for Alpha Titan. Just because, they're not the best into Stormcallers, but they are really good into Phoenix. Alpha Titan taking this round back. Fantastic job by him responding. Taking off big chunk on Doxun. Intensive training goes down for Doxun. You'd have to think nano or intensive for Alpha Titan. Alpha opts for intensive. Had an upgrade for all his Vulcans. Does he get this Vulcan with Amplifying Core to level 3? Does he get the one with Portable Shield to level 3? Does he level up, his marksman, get it to level 6? All right, so Alpha Titan adding Mustangs to deal with these wasps. They also will help with birds as well. Alpha Titan adding Mustangs to deal with these wasps. They'll also help with the Phoenix a little bit. You would think maybe Alpha Titan would sell one of the rhinos for 400 if he needed the cash, bump him up a little bit. I was going to say at minimum, he needs to pay the range tax, but he did, so that's fantastic. He still hasn't borrowed, which is a little, scary, but you're not necessarily in the range where you would have to. He might be able to hold off for another round before he'd have to. And he did just win last round, so not feeling the pressure to borrow just quite yet. And he did sell one of the rhinos. Okay, so we did call that. Opting for that instead of borrowing. And he still hasn't checked into AA on his marksman. I would like to see AA on the marksman. You maybe even consider double shot because, Doxun has energy shield. That very well might be what Alpha Titan is waiting for, is for Doxun to go into shield, and then Alpha Titan can respond with double shot. But looks like this War Factory level 2 is going to be an absolute menace to deal with. Is it going to be lethal? That is the question. The gamble. Is it going to be lethal? How much damage is going to be done? Alpha Titan going down to a little over 558 HP. You have to wonder, how does he respond right now? Does he take the Overlord? Alpha Titan does take the Overlord, okay. Now what does Doxun do? Does Doxun take it and sell? Doxun takes and sells as well. So we kind of called both of those. There goes down the Shielded Fangs, and that's actually going to make a huge impact. I think the Shielded Fangs are going to make a massive, massive impact. Now Doxun does have, Launcher Overload, which is pretty significant. I still would like to see AA on the marksman. He teched into Launcher Overload on the War Factory as well. Maybe throw down a missile here so that you can missile potential any chat protecting it, so you get the instant lock on with the melting point. Alpha Titan throwing down the oil on this side. Okay, so he opts for double shot. He might think that Doxun is going to go for energy shield to try to tempo him out this round, which is a good call, I think, on Alpha Titan's part. Okay, so there's the chaff, there's the shield. Doxun gets oil of his own. Where does he put it? Okay, so he's going to connect, they're going to connect the oils. It's probably going to be devastating for both, although Alpha's a little bit more shielded, but it is on his territory more, so we'll see. The question is, will this melter get the lock? How fast will he get the lock if he does? There's not a lot of chaff left to protect it. It is falling down rather fast. Just has to get through these fangs first. The Shielded Fangs are doing a fantastic job of soaking up some shots, though. The Vulcan latched on to the War Factory. It's not what you want to see, but the melter got a lockdown. Is it going to be enough to take it down? Is it going to be enough to take it down in time? The double shot marksman are absolutely helping out. Double shot marksman take down the War Factory along with the melter. Melter doing a significant amount of damage. And Doxun goes down in round 9, but it's not lethal, so we are going to a round 10. Alpha Titan responded beautifully. We are likely to see the laser sights on his melter. No hesitation there. He drops another Vulcan, which I think is fantastic. He's going to clear all this chaff. He realized the only thing holding that up was, the fangs right here that he had to get through. So, boom. Vulcan there. Laser sights. He's going to get this locked down fast. And the funny thing is, War Factory actually leveled up. Alpha Titan often go into Elite Marksman, which is going to give them a significant damage boost. And Doxun adding a War Factory on this side, giving it intensive training, leveling it to to level 2. Alpha Titan's not going to be full done. This is what I mean. He's just such a smart player. He puts down a melter on the side to anticipate Doxun's War Factory play. I would like to see a missile to take out the chaff if he doesn't have any additional employments for a Vulcan or money. Alpha Titan only at 100, and he already borrowed, so what a game so far. I think I'm going to give the edge actually to Alpha Titan. And the reason is because of the Shielded Fangs. I just don't think Doxun gets through the Shielded Fangs fast enough. And then it might come down to the rat side. If the Melter gets a lock on and is able to take down this War Factory, then I think, it's GG's. But if Doxun's able to take out this tower, War Factory goes down, then he might be able to win the game. So we'll see. I think focusing the right side, Mobile Beacon to the right side is the right call. Oh, wow, and that Melter goes down instantly, so no chaff. That Vulcan said no chaff today. The extra laser sight's got an instant lock on. I think that's going to be game, and I think Alpha Titan is going to win the series 2-1, but there's still a lot of time to... There are a lot of units to go. Doxun is not done yet. He still has a full level 2 War Factory. He still has Phoenix on the board. He just took Alpha Titan's tower. This is turned around in Doxun's favor. Doxun. He still has shielded. Alpha Titan still has shielded fangs. Shielded fangs are eating the bullets from the War Factory. War Factory goes down, and that is it lethal? Is it lethal? It is. Alpha Titan moves on, wins the series. Alpha Titan will be in the grand finals against Artorias. Extremely crazy series. Doxun took the first game. It looks like he was going to win, but Alpha Titan said, hold on. Ended up winning game number 2, tied it up to 1-1. Went into this crazy game, went to round 10, where Alpha Titan took it, which is 558 HP. It was back and forth the entire time. Doxun going to his War Factory play that we saw against Roxas, but Alpha Titan was absolutely prepared. Brilliant play to put the Smelter on the side, anticipating the second War Factory. Yeah, both of these are phenomenal players. Fantastic series, gentlemen. And I cannot wait for the finals. I'm very sad to see Doxun go, but I'm also very happy to see Alpha Titan and Artorias in the finals. It's going to be an amazing series. If you enjoyed the content, please consider liking and subscribing. I'm Wilt. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the finals.
This is Mechabellum, and it's going down. Whooped, got it popping round.